Hey, what's going on, Ant family? DTA here, back with another daily analysis video, talking about AMP only. I know yesterday I didn't have time to put up a daily analysis video on YouTube. I was pretty much driving around all day. Had to go all the way to New York City to take my dog to his checkup. He had surgery about 6 weeks ago. Little small surgery. They had to input a pin in his knee. Normal for small dogs to have, joint and ligament problems, but the little guy is doing pretty well. Although I didn't have time to post a video, I did have time to write an update on Reddit. So if you aren't following the AMP community on Reddit, make sure that you click the link in the description for the video below. So let's hop right on into our technical analysis for today, July 13th. Currently, right now, we do see AMP is down 6.3%. We currently are floating at the 5 cents level pretty much evenly, right? And I'm not really gonna, discuss the price action today, right? Why is that? Because the entire crypto market is experiencing, a slight downturn in the short term, right? In the short term. In the long term, we know exactly where, cryptocurrency is going to be. And adoption, it takes time, right? It took the internet about 50 years for everybody in the world to become a global user of it, right? But the rate of cryptocurrency adoption is happening at a far greater rate than the internet, right? And that's just a historical point of view, right? Just basing it on an adoption timeline, right? We see that the world is becoming more aware of cryptocurrency in a far shorter time than the adoption of the internet. And that just goes to show that we have more available resources to us than we did 50 years ago, especially with technological innovations, right? Social media, being able to spread information quicker and more easily, right? So just looking at the daily chart right now, we do see that we're at the bottom of our support line, right? And I think that, there's a few scenarios that can happen from this, right? Because we are, isolating in between the range of 5 cents and 0.063 cents, which we know historically, just looking up here, we know that we've gotten rejected every time we came up to this point, right? So we are in a ranging market, right? There has been accumulation going on, and we can look at, the Etherscan, the Explorer, to see the amount of new holders that, have been coming into the AMP market over the weeks, right? And it's been nothing but green. I think now we're at the 26,000 mark for AMP holders, and we could just go back to it to take a look at it really quick. Yeah, so currently we have 26,371 AMP holders, right? And just looking at this real quick, on June 29th, which was a Tuesday, we only had 22,225 holders, right? So each and every day there has been, an increase in the amount of AMP holders, right? Which goes to show us that, people are acquiring AMP, right? There's a growing amount of awareness, and along with, a growing amount of awareness, we know that there's going to be a growing amount of demand in the future for AMP, right? And that's just based purely off of the tokenomics for it, and also the universal real world use case with the Flexing network, right? So I think that on the daily, nothing to really be too worried about, especially if you're staking AMP on the Flexing network, right? Just remember why you invested in this project and the amount of daily AMP rewards that you will receive by staking on the Flexa capacity network, right? With that in mind, you are literally dollar cost averaging with no expense to you, right? You're getting daily AMP rewards in the form of staking, right? So essentially, you're gaining more AMP without having to purchase more AMP, right? And that should give you some comfort, right? You're going to be earning the AMP on a daily basis without having to put more money into it, right? And you're also helping to secure the network, right? So these are just things that you really have to keep in mind, especially during days like this, right? Days that are red candlestick days, days that some may call a bloodbath day. You really just have to keep in mind and remember why you invested in certain projects, right? Is it a bear market in the short term, right? And later on in this video, I will talk about some things to, let you know why I think that, this is only a short-term bear market to, get the weak hands out of the market, right? And transfer wealth into, those who can be deemed as, long-term investors. So that's what we have going on with the 4 hour. On the daily, I'm sorry. Now we're moving into the 4 hour, right? The 4 hours where it gets pretty interesting, right? We see that we kind of did break this market structure of, accumulation. We are currently below it, right? And it looks like we are trending towards the downside a bit, right? Now, the good thing is that, just going back in history, going back in time, right? This market structure right here, this was previous resistance flipped support, right? So, which is why we have a line right here. We have two lines actually, right? These are two preliminary support lines that we have on the 4 hour, right? So we do have preliminary support at the 0.047 level as well as at the 0.045 level, right? So if we do continue to trend further to the downside, I think that, it's very possible that we may hit the 0.047 level and trend sideways for a bit and possibly go up for a retest to, the 0.055, or we may, come down a little bit further to the 0.045 level and then, go for a retest to the 0.047 before going to the 0.055, right? If these two support levels don't hold, then we all know where else we could possibly go, right? Our lower support level at the 0.038 level, right? And those are all possibilities, especially right now, given the fact that, what Bitcoin is sort of, going through, right? And speaking of Bitcoin, let's just, take a look at, what's going on in the market real quick on the Bitcoin chart. So, just looking at the tweezer bottom pattern that we saw a few days ago, we saw that, the pattern didn't necessarily complete in the way that, it should have, right? And that just goes to show that, again, nobody is ever 100% right in the markets, right? You can never predict what's going to happen 100% of the time. And we have to be okay with that, right? We saw that we did sort of, trend up, and we got rejected hard at the $34,635 level, right? This is where this hard rejection came in. And we know for a fact that, this isn't retail selling, right? These are market makers. These are, institutions. You have to think about, who has the power to push this price down, right? And currently we are sort of, sitting a little bit above the bottom of the low of these tweezer bottom candlesticks, right? If we do fall below the $32,100 level, which is the bottom of this candlestick for the tweezer bottom, then I do think that we could see some possible, some more possible moves to the downside. Maybe coming down to, the $30,000 level even, right? Which will put us right at the low of this candle. And if we do break the $30,000 level for Bitcoin, we could possibly go to the low of this candle, which will put us at the $28,600 level, right? All possibilities that could happen, in terms of going lower. But again, right, there are some things happening in both the AMP market and the Bitcoin market, right? So, just taking a look at the sentiment for AMP, searching around finding new news that's coming out, right? AMP has been making some headlines and new appearances, right, in different crypto outlets. So, just taking a look at, coinspeaker.com, they have a full deep dive about what is AMP, right? And I actually think that they do a really good job, speaking about the development of AMP and also digging into what the Flexa network is. And, also highlighting the CEO of Flexa, Tyler Spalding, literally the rocket scientist behind the AMP project. But, they do also highlight the milestones for AMP and Flexa, and, just the tech basis of the protocol. And I think one of the significant things about this article is where they talk about the advantages of AMP, right? They say that, the AMP smart contracts are audited by famous securities companies such as Consensus Diligence. If you don't know who Consensus is, I would highly recommend looking into them. They are the OGs of crypto, founded by one of the Ethereum devs, right? And they've also been audited by Trail of Bits, right? Another top tier crypto auditing company, right? And it says that the open source code of the platform is easy to check and to integrate into third party applications or a platform, right? So AMP is universal in terms of being interoperable to go into any application or global platform, right? And then lastly, it says that AMP has become the first project that provided staking collateral and maintaining custody for their assets for the network users. Therefore, it is likely to gain further interest and adoption. And we know that. And we also know that, adoption takes time. So, just to see AMP in different news outlets, and to see that, they're actually describing the token in a pretty well fashion, it's comforting to know that, people are taking the time to do their due diligence and really understand what AMP is. We also have a similar article, if you take a look at cryptotracker.io, that talks about AMP and Flexa also, right? But in regards to Bitcoin, right, we know that some things are coming up. We know that, the grayscale trust unlocking of GBTC is happening on July 18th. But what's happening after July 18th? Oh, man. I bet a lot of people didn't even know about this, but, on July 21st, there's a crypto conference sponsored by some of the world's biggest hedge funds, such as ARK Invest, Square, Jack Dorsey, right, and Paradigm, right? And it's called the B Word. And in this conference, who are they going to be speaking to? Specifically to institutions. It's called How Institutions Can Embrace Bitcoin, right? So really demystifying all of the controversy around Bitcoin and how institutions can integrate Bitcoin in numerous ways, including putting it on their balance sheets, creating new alternative forms of revenues, like, the great Michael Saylor has done for his company, and some other things, right? So I think that this conference specifically could be the spark that Bitcoin needs to, demystify all of the controversy going on around with it right now, and to, drive further cryptocurrency adoption. And I think that this is very bullish for Bitcoin, and we all know that Bitcoin is pretty much the benchmark for the entire cryptocurrency market, right? This is a free event, right? This isn't just for institutions. I've registered for it. It's going to be happening on July 21st, right? So if you are interested in attending this to listen to some of the great speakers from these hedge funds, who are champions of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, then I would highly suggest registering for it. It's a free event, free conference. It's going to be a lot of major players attending this, right? And we can see just from the headline, and who else is going to be here? The Crypto Council for Innovation, right? the same council that is, working towards making sure that Bitcoin and the entire crypto mining space is using nothing but renewable sources of energy to mine Bitcoin, right? To keep the world and the earth at a global and sustainable place, and to also, make sure that we're not putting in any more carbon into the atmosphere, right? We want to make sure that, this new technology won't harm not only, the earth, but, the human being race as a whole. So, you know, this is an incredibly bullish conference. So make sure you check this out at thebword.org, right? And yeah, that's what we have going on for today's technical analysis, guys. Just again, remember why you invested in, certain projects. Remember why, you invested in AMP, right? Don't forget about its fundamentals, right? Don't forget about the team, and don't let this short-term volatility impact your psychology, right? We know that with all new markets, there's bound to be a lot of volatility. There's bound to be a lot of ups and downs in the beginning, right? But that should not impact your long-term investment ethos, right? So never forget that. That's what we have going on for today's daily analysis. If you guys like this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And until tomorrow, DTA is out.